Hey there, welcome back to our Harkla YouTube channel. We're so happy to have you here with us today. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica. We are the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with Harkla, and today we're going to talk about 3 things you can do in your baby's first year of life to promote primitive reflex integration.
So as you probably already know, there are things that we can do every day to support our baby's development in that first year of life. And we are specifically talking about primitive reflexes here today, as always, but these are things that you can just be mindful of as you're going through your daily activities to help promote that natural integration of reflexes.
Yeah, and we kind of took a twist today for today's video. Instead of saying 3 things you can do, we're talking about 3 things we recommend you don't do to help with that primitive reflex integration within the first 12 months, first 18 months of your baby's life. And the first one is to avoid putting your baby in a container for more than 15 to 20 minutes at a time.
And the reason why this is so important to focus on, adhere to, is because babies' nervous systems, their sensory systems, everything develops from the ground up. So we want them to be placed on the floor during waking hours as often as possible. We want that to be your go-to position. Oh, you're holding your baby, but you have to go to the bathroom? Put them on the floor. You're cooking dinner. Bring them in the kitchen, put them on the floor, put them on their side, put them on their tummy, put them on their back. Just have that be your go-to position. And when you're thinking about your daily routine, if you have older kiddos and you're driving to soccer practice or you're going to daycare pickup and you are putting your baby in the car seat, that also counts as a container as well. So thinking about, I don't know, trying to find that balance of, okay, we're going to be in the car seat for 30 minutes, so let's make sure we get 30 minutes of floor time beforehand. You know, just naturally think about that as you go through your day.
We know that containers can be essential for busy lives with multiple kids, with animals in the house. So we know that containers, even just from a safety perspective, can be really helpful. But the goal here is moderation and not going to the container for every, activity, and not putting baby in the container unless it's really needed, because when baby is placed on the floor, it allows them to move as much and as freely as possible, which is required for primitive reflex integration.
Yes. All right, number 2 is to avoid the wait and see or the they'll grow out of it mentality. Now, we've heard from clients, we've heard from you saying, my pediatrician said, just wait and see, they'll grow out of it, they'll be fine, this is normal. We're trying to encourage you to be proactive in supporting your baby's development, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, so if your baby is struggling to tolerate tummy time and either a family member or your pediatrician says, don't worry about it, you don't need to do it all the time, we recommend not necessarily following that advice, but instead looking at a baby's development and saying they actually do need that daily tummy time to promote primitive reflex integration. So let's find ways to make tummy time more engaging, more, fun for baby, even though it's for babies, it's hard to say fun, but you know what I mean. And instead of going with that, no worries, don't worry about it, go with your gut. If you feel like something is off and you're told to dismiss it, or you are dismissed yourself, we recommend reaching out and finding a different provider or finding a support system of like-minded people who can say, oh, I hear you, I see where you're coming from, let's dig into this.
And the reason why this is so important for primitive reflex integration is because those gross motor milestones are so closely connected to primitive reflex integration. The rolling, the crawling. We don't want babies to skip crawling, and we've heard so many times, me personally, I've heard from multiple of our pediatricians and providers that it's fine if they don't crawl. It's fine if they scoot on their bum. They're gonna eventually walk, and walking isn't the priority. It's the crawling that helps to integrate the primitive reflexes.
That actually goes into our third thing to avoid, which is to avoid skipped milestones. So, we hear stories so often of babies who walked early and who didn't necessarily crawl at all or for very long, but instead they were walking by 9 or 10 months. And while that can seem really exciting as a parent, from a primitive reflex standpoint, it's actually skipping several huge developmental milestones that impact primitive reflex integration. So we want to look at those developmental milestones throughout the first year, year and a half of life, and make sure that none of them are getting skipped. And if they are getting skipped, that we kind of go back and make sure that the baby can master those milestones.
We do have previous videos on things like helping a child learn to roll or to crawl and to go through those gross motor developmental milestones, but those milestones are there for a reason. They are developmentally required in order to build on the next skill that the child's going to master. We know that crawling, the research shows, this isn't just us saying, do this, do that. It's like literally the research, we have done years of research that just shows how truly important crawling specifically is for primitive reflex integration, ocular motor skills, hand strength, posture, upper body strength, connecting both sides of the brain. Please, please, please advocate and stand up for yourself, stand up for your child and say, you know what, this doesn't seem right. I'm gonna go get a second opinion, or we're gonna request an OT eval or a PT eval, and we're just gonna, when in doubt, rule it out.
Yeah. Now, if you want to learn more about the developmental milestones and how they relate to primitive reflexes, we have a free webinar that is designed for parents, therapists, caregivers of infants and toddlers. We'll link that in the description so you can watch that free webinar. But also, if you're watching this video and you have an older child and you're realizing that you did these 3 things that we're recommending you avoid, that's okay. If you didn't know at the time, there's nothing you can do about it, right? So don't put the blame on yourself. Don't feel like you did something wrong because you didn't. Now that you know how important it is, you can take the next steps in helping your child if they're struggling.
And just keep in mind, it's never too late to get down on the floor and crawl. Crawling is a beautiful activity for every age. Babies, school-aged kids, adults, geriatrics, everyone should be on the floor crawling every day, because you can always go back and give the brain that second chance to go through those motor movements that maybe it missed in infancy.
And it's never too late to work on those retained primitive reflexes for older children and for adults as well. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you have some ideas, if you have a new baby, some ideas of things that you can do, avoid. We have other videos geared towards infants specifically, plus that free webinar that I mentioned, so definitely check those out.
Feel free to send this video to someone who is expecting or has a new baby and say, hey, I just learned this really cool thing, and I hope it can help you as well.
Yeah. If you liked this video, make sure, like you said, where like Rachel said, share it with a friend. Leave us a comment, like this video, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. That's where we're always hanging out, at All Things Sensory Podcast, as well as Harkla_family.
Yeah, and if you are really concerned about your baby or your child's development, talk to your pediatrician. I think Rachel mentioned this, but I always like to mention it again. Talk to your pediatrician and get a referral for occupational therapy services or physical therapy services.
And with that, we will plan on seeing you next week.
Okay, bye.
I could have gone 100 different ways.
I know, I think
that, but I think
short
that
and
was great.
sweet. Yeah. You don't want to rant too much.
No. Let me say that again, because that sounds really stupid.